Early favorite bands in terms of like vocalists, Roy Khan is a big one, as everybody knows. Hello.
Hey, Adrienne, how's it going? It's Brandon calling from the Signals of Intuition.
It's going. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing okay. I think we finally got the audio situation sorted out, so it should be good.
Okay, excellent. I'm very sorry about my audio situation. I'm actually on the bus right now and the generator is extremely loud. So I hope you can't hear it.
Oh, there's no worries. No, it sounds completely fine, so your audio is all good on my end.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
So you're on the bus. Where are you guys currently at right now?
I am in Roseville, California today.
Oh, fantastic. I'm in Windsor, Canada, right next to Detroit. And I'm guessing if you're in Cali, your weather's probably quite a bit nicer than ours is, eh?
Well, it's a bit of a gray and rainy day, but I started the day like in a nice little coffee shop and had my matcha latte and like a coffee cake. And it was, with the rain outside. So it was actually pretty great.
Oh, that works. It's kind of nice, too, when,
Yeah.
the weather's not all that great, and yet it can kind of be a bit inspiring, so that's not bad.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it was also like, now I'm ready to go back to bed, but it was still good.
Oh, that's great. So when I do these, I like to start at the beginning of you as a musician, then work our way up to the new live album, live at Prog Power 21. So going back to the beginning, where did you grow up, and how did you get started in music?
I grew up in Houston, Texas. And we just always had music playing in the house. My dad used to be a DJ in the 80s. There was just, music equipment around the house. I think I was playing with keyboards before I could walk. I don't have any memories of a time where I was not able to play piano. And my mom said that my life was a musical when I was a kid, which I take to mean that I was very annoying and ran around singing all the time. So that's sort of how it started. There was no time before that.
No, it's funny. I mean, I grew up much the same way as a kid, running around with a toy plastic guitar. And I'm sure, your parents were like mine, where they were sort of half, oh, that's so cute, meets, oh my God, that's getting annoying.
Yep. Yeah, probably a little both. But you know what? It's who we are. You can't change that.
Oh, totally. So tell me this then. So who were some of your favorite artists and musicians growing up?
Early favorite bands. Let's see. In terms of metal, which I discovered in like my tweens, early teens, I guess, I really liked Children of Bodom. I really liked Yngwie Malmsteen. So I was always into like shred guitar players. And as soon as I found this, I was like, man, I need one of those. Because I was a pianist at first, I thought like there's no way that I could be a metal vocalist. It's just, it's too hard. It's too extreme. My instrument just isn't able to do that. So I thought I was going to be a metal keyboardist for a long time. And that's why Children of Bodom appealed to me so much. But in terms of like vocalists, gosh, it's not a metal vocalist, but I actually, and even still, really like Adam Lambert. Like he's fantastic. Roy Khan is a big one, as everybody knows. I also, only a few years after I started listening to metal more, I found this performance of Dimmu Borgir with like a full orchestra at a festival, and I was like, dang, I didn't know you could do that. So Shag Rathwa is also quite a vocal influence for me, and is part of why I scream the way I do, even today.
So the first band that I'm aware of you doing is Seven Spires. Were they your first band, or did you do anything before them? And how did Seven Spires form?
They're the first real band that I was in, I guess. I went to music school in high school, and I was in a lot of projects just, for school and for practice, and never released any like commercial records or anything. It was just, like baby's first high school band. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. I'm guessing it was probably something like me, where you're in high school, you meet one kid who plays drums, you find another kid who plays bass, and you go, let's play the talent show.
Yeah. It's exactly like that. So yeah, if you want to disregard my high school, fine. Seven Spires was my first real band. And I was playing in a lot of rock bands in high school, and I thought, man, I'm just too sad and too dark for this. So it was time to write some stuff on my own. I made a few demos when I was in 2012, and I was playing a little bit of guitar, playing a little bit of bass, just learned how to orchestrate, was learning how to write for drums. And I made a couple of demos. And then in 2013, when I moved back to the US, I met Jack in my first week at Berkeley in the bookstore when I was buying textbooks for class, and he was standing in line in front of me, and I was wearing a Nightwish shirt, and Def Leppard was playing on the radio, and I was like, there he is. That's the shred guy I was looking for. And he was like, well, there she is. The other thing that I don't know, that's the rest is basically history. So, yeah.
So tell me this. So right from the beginning with the Cabaret of Dreams EP, Seven Spires has worked with Sascha Paeth as a mix engineer. How did the band begin working with him?
Great question. So as we all know, he worked on so many fantastic records in the melodic metal scene. And so I grew up on a lot of these records, especially the Kamelot records, big surprise. And so I thought, man, that's the guy that I want to work on my record. So I emailed him just completely cold when I was like 18. And I was like, dear Mr. Paeth, it would be such an honor if you would grace our record with your whatever, something like that. And years later, he told me it was because of the song The Cabaret of Dreams that caught his ear. And that was why he said, yeah, I'll work on it. And he said he basically had never heard this kind of like shuffly blues influence in a metal song executed that way before. And I think that's kind of his background, like from his childhood. So I think it spoke to him.
So switching gears slightly, in 2017, you joined the Winds of Plague for their Blood of My Enemy album as a keyboardist. How did you come to join the band, and were you involved with the writing of the album, or did you come in and the music was already written for the album?
This is actually a funny story. So the only contributions I made to that record were the backing vocals and like female guest vocal or whatever, that type of thing. So the record was already done when I joined the band, but I was, I think, about to go to NAMM or something, and I was almost done with my degree, and I got a message from Art, the old drummer, on Instagram, and it was like, hey, it's 2 weeks out from our tour, our keyboardist can't do it, can you do it? And I was like, okay. I just really wanted to go on tour. I was almost done with my degree. I was ready to put my degree to use. And it was the first major keyboard gig I ever took, and it's probably the only one that's of any significance. And I learned the songs. I learned how to be a live metal keyboard player, and it was fun. And it's still an experience that I would cherish because I finally got to pretend to be Jan Veerman or like Thomas Holopainen, Hi, Jan Warman? You know who I'm talking about, the guy from Children of Bodom.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, it was like a full circle moment in a way.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, first it comes back to Sasha and Roy Khan, and then it comes back to Children of Bodom.
Yeah.
So again, talking about another band, in 2019, I got to see you perform in Chicago with Avantasia. How is it touring with Toby and being a part of that, incredible large cast of musicians?
It's absolutely wild. As probably everybody knows, this is a band that I've liked since high school, and getting to tour with somebody that my mom used to refer to as my soul uncle, talking about Toby, because we used to have like a similar aesthetic, and he's a total showman and extremely charismatic on stage. It was just really surreal. And so, I'll be like on stage doing my step touch, backing vocalist singing, and I look to my right and, Sasha's just there on stage right. And it's like, am I dreaming? Is this real? And then, like Jorn Lende walks out on stage going, yeah, this thing that he does so amazingly. And I'm like staring into the eyes of God as he's like singing into my face. Like, it's really, there's nothing really like it, I think. And I'm extremely grateful for the experience because it definitely changed my view on everything.
So here's a question for you. So I've interviewed Sasha before. I've interviewed Ronnie Atkins and Jeff Tate, and I think I asked all three of them this question. So I'm curious if you remember this about that show. So during the show, Toby sits there and he says, okay, how many people here are from Chicago? And crickets.
It was like 3 people, right?
Exactly. And then right afterwards, he says, okay, now who here is not from Chicago? And the place absolutely erupted.
Yeah, I do remember that, actually.
So we've talked a lot about Sasha, but I'd like to ask you, how did you become involved with this band, The Masters of Ceremony? In 2019, you sang on that album with Uli John Roth's Corvin Bond and Felix from Avantasia. How did this project come about, and how did you come to join it?
So he had been in talks with this record label, Frontiers, for, I think, on and off for quite some years. And the label was like, hey, we really want you to do a project. And finally he said yes. And he called me one day and was like, hey, do you want to sing for this project? It's going to work like this. And I was like, you picked me? You could have asked like Tommy Karavik or Simone Simmons or like literally anybody because you know the entire scene. You picked me. I mean, yes, obviously the answer is yes, but but yeah, that's how it began. And I went to stay at his house in I think like November 2018 to work on the record. And it was also during that trip that I signed the Seven Spires' record contract with Frontiers, and also that was the same trip where I got the okay to announce that I was going to join Avantasia. So that was like also a big like turning point for Adrienne's career.
That's unbelievable. That had to be like one of the craziest, 100 days of your life. It seems like everything. Tell me this then. So, like, was Toby aware of you? Did he really push for you to be in the band? Or was it sort of Sasha coming and saying, hey, I know the singer Adrienne and we got to have her in the band to fill in the female parts?
It was more the latter. I think in general, Sasha's feedback for me is like, yeah, of course you can totally sing, but I also like to work with you because you're a nice person. And I guess that's much more rare than you would imagine, or maybe about as rare as you would imagine. And so, yeah, I guess I just get called because I am not entirely unpleasant. But yeah, Toby was not there. He calls Sasha quite often, I guess. And so I talked to him on the phone and stuff like that, but I didn't actually meet him until rehearsals, I think.
So being a huge fan of Toby and Avantasia, how much did it blow your mind to have him call and get to speak to him in that
I think
moment?
I was like, I was like frozen. There was, I was there at Gate Studios, which is no longer belonging to Sasha, but a couple of years prior to that, and it was when we were recording the vocals for Solveig. And I just did 100 days with Sasha there at that studio. But Toby called while I was warming up. And so, vocalist warm-ups sound like really stupid. So I was there in the background like, like making all these like horrible sounds. And then Sasha like walks out of the control room and it's like, yeah, Toby's on the phone, huh? Visibly paled. I probably like grew up. Just yeah.
So, I mean, I guess we've kind of answered this question, but, you being a huge fan of Kamelot and Roy, how did you end up getting him to be a part of the Gods of Debauchery album for Seven Spires? And what brought about this collaboration? I'm guessing, working with Sasha, did you just kind of put a bug in his ear and be like, so could we get my hero Roy on this record?
Well, dead. And I thought, wow, it would be so amazing. And I mean, who are you gonna call? who else could you possibly call? I mean, maybe I can't even think of who else you would call. Yeah, so it had to be Roy, and I just sort of wrote to Sasha and said, hey, any chance that you still have his email? And he said, yeah, this is a really, really old email, but you sure can try. And he wrote back to me, actually. Roy wrote back to me within a couple of hours, and he said, hey, Adrienne, this is a weird coincidence, but I actually know who you are. I was just on YouTube looking at what dear old Sasha was up to, and I saw the music videos that you guys made, and wow, you're like an incredible vocalist, is super versatile, or it was something like that. And I remember reading this email in my kitchen, and I was just talking to my mom, and I like stopped the conversation. I was like, Mom, he wrote back. And we were both like totally like freaking out. So yeah, that's how it happened.
So then I take it your mom's a huge power metal fan too, eh?
Yeah. We used to go to shows together. She doesn't really go to that many these days. She's more into like fitness and stuff. But actually both my parents are extremely supportive, and I'm really lucky and super grateful for that.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I would say for myself, like my parents are quite supportive of what I do in being a musician and all of that. It sounds like yours go the next level though, and are actually like way into what you do, which is really cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
So before we get to the new live album, I'd like to ask you about this. So as I understand it, the last time you guys played Prog Power, you were only given a day or two's notice to be the replacement band for another band who had to back out at the last minute. Is that true?
That's basically how it went, yeah. Jack was already there, and then I was going to fly in the next day. And Milton, who's one of the booking people at Prog Power, took Jack aside and was like, can you get your guys here like tomorrow? Because we have an emergency. And we got there and we played the show. And yeah, that's basically how it happened. I was in the shower actually when I got the call. I like these things always happen so weirdly. I was in the shower when I got the call. Why? I don't know. But I remember like my hands were like shaking and stuff because I love this festival. It's like a big deal to me. And so we were like calling Dovis, but he was still in class because we were all still at, like, or Pete and Chris were still at university. And so he like got out of class, looked at his phone and like 46 missed calls. He thought like somebody had died. But it was just like, hey, can you fly to Atlanta tonight? Nothing bad. So yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. I can't imagine getting a phone call like that. I mean, I'm guessing, you growing up being a big power metal fan, like myself, I can just imagine getting that phone call to be like, hey, can you make this happen in less than 48 hours to play at this festival you've dreamed of playing and going to your entire life?
Yeah, it's exactly what she said. And I think actually the first year that I went, I wasn't even 21 yet, so I couldn't like get into the vortex. I couldn't like drink at the bar and stuff. And so yeah, just like a little baby.
That's so funny.
All right, and now it's time to get to the brand new live album, Live at Prog Power 21. So you guys have the album just came out on Frontiers Records. I caught the set that night, and I've got to say, you guys did an absolutely killer job of capturing the energy of that show. I mean, it's well recorded, well mixed. The crowd's in there beautifully. Like, it just gives such a great representation of what I remember about that show. What do you remember about that set and about the festival that year?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Jack will be very happy to hear that he mixed it. What do I remember about it? The obvious. I was extremely nervous because it was the first time that I would actually meet Roy in person, and we sang together that day. And I was stressed, of course, because I wanted to do a good job. And they told us earlier that day, hey, we can record your set if you want. So we had this added like, oh, quick, somebody go out and buy a hard drive so that we can have the files for later. And then you have 20 minutes to set up instead of 2 days to get all the microphones in place and stuff. But I do remember that a lot of our hardcore fans, the Coffee Cult and the 7th Brigade, were there, and they brought out these tea lights during the God is Dead because it's let me be your light, let me be your light. And so it was like looking out into like a sea of stars. They dimmed all the house lights. It was beautiful, and we had so many friends and loved ones there, and it was just like a magical experience. So yeah.
One thing I remember from that set is when you guys started to play This God is Dead, everybody just kind of looking at themselves and going, wait a second, Conception is playing tomorrow. I wonder if Roy is actually going to come out and play his part. And I remember people just going absolutely crazy when he came out, and you can hear it on the recording.
Yeah, it was very hard to like it was very hard to like look at anyone in the crowd, very hard to look at Roy, hard to look at my bandmates. Like, I don't know what to do with myself. Where do I put my hands? Where do I put my face? I'm very overwhelmed. But yeah, I was exploding internally too.
Yeah, I can just imagine how insane that must have been, getting to meet him. And of course, as a huge Roy fan myself, I couldn't imagine getting to do something like that with him. It's something that you just kind of think about. It's the magic of Prog Power, like how lucky that, you guys and Conception just happen to be on the same bill for that to happen. And I think of how many times at Prog Power through the years, those kind of magic things have happened where guest musicians or former musicians or whatever who haven't been with the band forever come out and get to do those special moments like that.
Yeah, it was very lucky that that Conception were also there. You know what? It's another one of those examples of like, you really have to be careful with what you think about, because it's going to happen if you think too much about it.
Mm-hmm. So tell me this. So you're currently on tour with Eluveitie and Omnium Gatherum. This is a really special tour because yourself and several other singers are filling in for Chigrel. How much notice did you have to prepare some of these songs, and how's the tour going so far?
Let's see. Let me look at my tour pass, and I will tell you how much time we had, because I got the email when we were in Hanover, which was the third to last show of the tour that we were on in Europe before we started this tour. So that was February 10th. And then I didn't get the song list that I would sing until probably the following week. But then I was in writing sessions and catching up on sleep. So I didn't actually get to work on the songs until I was home for 5 days. And then I came to this tour. And on the first day, everybody's stressed because it's the first day of tour, and the sound checks were running late because I think there was a technical problem or something. And so in the end, I only got to practice half of one song with Eluveitie before we actually went on stage in front of everybody. So I didn't have the most time to prepare, but that's rock and roll, and it's okay. The tour has been going really great. Everybody's extremely nice. There's no drama or anything, and not really any divas. Everybody's really sweet, and I think we're all just happy that the tour didn't get canceled. We could still do it. And I even actually got a message from Kriegel, the guy that I fill in for, and he said, "Hey, I don't know you, but I could tell you have a big heart, and thanks for doing it." So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. How much time did it take you to really get acclimatized to the songs? I'm guessing the first couple shows, you're probably reading every lyric sheet as much as possible.
Yeah, I had the lyrics taped to the monitors and everything. It's just I really wanted to make sure that I do a good job, because it's the main guy's not there, and I don't want to be the a-hole that ruins it. I really wanted to honor what he has created and, give it the same respect and effort that I would hope someone would give to me if it were me in that situation. So, yeah.
So do you feel like after about a month now with the songs, you finally have them down and they're, starting to become a part of you at this point?
Yeah, finally. It only took 2.5 weeks, but between constantly feeling overwhelmed in general, plus being on stage with a group of new people with new songs, trying to make sure that I don't get make sure that I get the timing right, make sure that I get the lyrics right. Everybody's filming stuff because, oh my God, it's different. And that's Adrienne on stage with this band. And, there's just so many things going on that are very distracting. But I think finally I found my place. The only one thing that is hard for me is I get so wrapped up in how cool it is to sing with them that I sometimes I can't hear the click, or I forget where we are in the the little spoken break or something, and I'm like, oh, when do I come back in? But it's literally only because it's so cool, and I'm just I just forget myself for a second. So.
Oh, yeah, no, I completely hear you and understand what you're saying. I find that too when I play with a new group of musicians, or you start to play some new songs or whatever, and you're still working them out and trying to get used to them. It's so easy to get lost in the song or just focus so intensely on what you're trying to do and where you're at in the song that, you can get lost. And man, this is really cool that we're playing this song right now.
Exactly. Oh, I'm so glad you understand. Thank you.
So you figure probably in another week or two, you're just going to hit that point where it's as if this has been Seven Spire songs where you've been singing your whole life, and you'll be completely at ease with the music and know exactly where you're at during the show.
Yeah, yeah. And I really want to let go a little bit and just enjoy myself. And I'm almost at that point where I can do that completely, but I can't fully do that yet because I'll just forget, or I'll lose count or something stupid. Then I look like an amateur.
So aside from the new live record and the North American tour that Seven Spires are wrapping up right now, what's next in the pipeline for yourself and Seven Spires?
So after this tour, the four of us have a few things that we each individually need to go and do. So I will go to Germany and work on some Masters of Ceremony stuff, and then some Avantasia stuff. Of course, we have the show in Oberhausen, and then also Summer Breeze in Brazil, I think. So I'll go home right before festival season, and I think we're just going to try to finish the new Seven Spires record. The demos are basically done, but I have to finish the orchestration, and the guys are going to refine their parts. I'm going to refine my parts, and hopefully get recording pretty soon. So yeah, that's what's next.
So you're thinking probably 2024 for the next Seven Spires album to come out then?
That would be great. We have to deliver the album probably towards the end of this year, but I don't know when it's actually going to be out. And I don't want to put a date out there and then get it wrong or have, so unfortunately, I don't know is the answer.
So we can probably put you down for within the next 10 years, we'll have a new Seven Spires album.
Yes, I would. That's safe to say.
Oh, that's fantastic. Really looking forward to that. Adrienne, I really want to thank you for taking the time out to do this interview. And I'm really liking the new live record. Like I say, the sound on it's fantastic. I think you've really captured the energy of that special night.
Right on, us too. And that's so cool, actually, that you were there as well. That makes it extra special, I think.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks again, Adrienne. Best of luck on the tour, and looking forward to what you've got coming up next.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.